So, hello, welcome to Conversations with Marléne and Pascale. And before we start, let's introduce ourselves to anybody who hasn't seen us before. I'm Marléne Rose Shaw. I'm a therapist and a coach and a self-help author. And I specialize in helping people with relationships, confidence, feeling more empowered, not people-pleasing, setting boundaries, and having great relationships and communication skills. And Pascale.
Wonderful. Hello, my name is Pascale Lane. I'm a therapeutic relationship and confidence coach, and I help women who are unhappy in their relationship to decide whether to stay in the relationship and make it work, or whether to call time, leave, and create a life that fills them with joy.
Fantastic.
Or a relationship that fills them with joy.
Fantastic.
Anything, as long as they're filled with joy.
Just making that decision, getting that clarity, isn't it? And making that
Absolutely.
decision and not being so stuck.
100%.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to be talking a lot more today, and that's on the topic of people pleasing. And I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and my experience from many, many years helping clients, and also getting your thoughts as well on the topic, Pascale. So let's start with looking at people pleasing. What is people pleasing, do you think, from your perspective? Because people see it in a different way. What do you think, Pascale?
With the clients that I see, predominantly people pleasing starts at quite a young age, and essentially it's keeping the peace, doing what other people want, making them happy, and kind of always, it's kind of like giving up part of yourself, really. It's negating your own needs, it's negating your own wants and your own feelings for the sake of keeping other people happy, not wanting to upset anybody, not wanting to hurt or offend, not wanting to cause any problems. But all of that kind of, because all of that is kind of like, yeah, well, we can maybe want to do that sometimes, but it always feels like there's a sacrifice to self when we are getting into like proper people pleasing territory. And I think that starts at quite a young age, only forming acceptance from our primary caregivers or our loved ones when we're doing the right thing. And so that people pleasing mentality gets in very early. My happiness doesn't matter as long as everybody else is happy. That's what it essentially means to me. That's the kind of pattern that I see in my work a lot. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, exactly that. I see it because, you know, I work with couples, and I see it with couples. People, one is often more of the people pleaser. I work a lot with individual clients. In fact, you know, working with helping people set better boundaries and communicate those boundaries and not be a people pleaser is something that I really come to specialize in. Actually, I've got a quiz which we'll put a link in the comments here, because actually what I've done is I've broken down the people pleasing habits, the ways we people please. And actually we all people please. We all do it to a certain degree, but it's not like some people do it, some people don't. We all do it to a certain degree. And it's part of the first phase of life. That's how I see it. My new book, Courage to Be You, that I'm writing at the moment, having so much fun writing this book. But in the book, you know, I talk about these two phases that, you know, the first phase of life is, as you quite rightly say, in early years, we learn to people please, and it's kind of a survival thing. You know, we have to be good, and we have to make sure that we get the care and the love and the validation and all of the stuff that we need, the physical safety and the emotional safety as well. And so it's a normal thing to people please. It's not a bad thing. It's just that when we get to be in our grown-up years, in our grown-up relationships, it goes against us. It doesn't work anymore. And so this second phase is when we need to address that and start looking at our life and our relationships in a much more empowered way, to find courage to be you know, to actually learn ways to change that, because we have evolved, and we need to all evolve as a human race by learning not to continue on with these sort of fearful child ways in our grown-up years. We need to have more grown-up relationships with each other instead of childlike relationships where we're so much in fear of being judged and criticized that we don't have the happy relationships, and we don't get to have the fulfilled life that we deserve. We're going around living our life according to the opinions of everybody else. Everybody's going around worrying about what everybody else thinks of them. And actually, when we can step back and we can go through that phase of evolving in that part of our life, and then we can do that at 20, we can do it at 80 or 100 or 50, it doesn't matter. And we do it at different stages and in different ways. We might stop people pleasing in some ways, but not others. You know, it's an ongoing journey. But that is part of the evolution of us individually and the evolution of the human race, learning to do that. But what I've found is that there are different ways that we people please, and I have 5 ways, but I'm sure there are more and they overlap. But the ones that I have in my quiz are rescuing, fixing,
yes, yeah,
overgiving, conflict avoiding, and adapting. And I'm going to talk about each of those individually in our future conversations, but today I'm going to focus on the rescuing. But if you take the quiz, you'll find you get a score, a percentage score for each of those types of people pleasing. And then I'll send you some tips on what you need to do, the antidote, what you need to do to break those habits so that you can have much happier relationships and be much more fulfilled and confident in yourself, you know. Have a happier...
I think that's so key, isn't it? Is having that confidence in yourself. And you know, so many adults, it's got nothing to do with education or culture or job or income. So many people are walking children.
Yes. Yeah.
And it takes real confidence and real inner knowing and real, you know, self-development to be able to kind of break that, to be able to see it in the first instance, and then to be able to break that habit.
Yeah.
So what is rescuing? How would you define that?
Okay, so, well, first of all, it is what it says on the tin. You know, we feel the need to rescue people, but you can define if you tend to rescue, or if you think you tend to rescue, you'll know by these things. So first of all, you need to put other people's needs before your own. You're concerned about making everything all right. You don't want to rock the boat, as you said. You don't want any conflict. You feel guilty. If other people are not happy, you feel anxious and you feel guilty. You find it very hard. Rescuers find it very hard to say no. We all find it hard to say no at times, but with the right communication skills and setting the boundaries and working on, whether it's self-help books or it's a workshop or it's therapy, one-to-one, whatever it is, we can learn to do that. Rescuers find it very, very hard to say no because the guilt comes up and the anxiety comes up. And so what rescuers tend to do, and I say rescuers, that's all of us, because we all rescue sometimes, but what we tend to do when we're in rescue mode is that we'll wish that we could say no to people's requests, for example. We open our mouth and yes comes out. And we're kind of, oh God, you know, so then we've given up our time.
You get really angry with yourself then.
You get angry with yourself, and then resentment comes in. You feel resentful and you start to think, oh, this person's made me give up my Saturday afternoon, or they've made me feel guilty. Actually, they haven't, because it's our responsibility to just learn not to say yes when we really mean no. It's hard. This is why we need help. This is part of the growing wise a bit. It's not like we can just make a decision. No, I think I'll just say no from now on. We think it, but it's hard to actually put that into place. So it's, we must be compassionate with ourselves if we keep rescuing, because it's just what we learned to do once upon a time. And it's time to actually get some help to change that. So when we go into rescue mode, what we tend to do, we can't relax. If people around us are not happy, we're not happy. And it seems to be never ending, rescuing, because, you rescue somebody from one situation and then there's something else comes up, or you rescue one person, maybe in the family, and then somebody else needs your help. And when we go into rescue mode, we end up exhausted. We feel drained, we feel exhausted, and we feel, as I said, resentful. And I sometimes say to my clients, well, you can feel resentful on and on and on and on, or you can feel guilty for a while and work through the guilt. Which would you rather? Because you're going to feel one or the other. So which do you want to choose? And when you look at it like that, it's like, well, actually, I'd probably rather feel a bit guilty for a while and learn to work through the guilt than be stuck in this ongoing resentment all the time. And people will pick up on that as well, of course. So rescuing is all about that. It's all about feeling guilty and finding it hard to say no, and just always, being there, putting other people first.
So what would be the ways, if you're happy to give some suggestions to how people can break that habit? Because sometimes we know these things on an intellectual level, and I think sometimes actually we don't know it on an intellectual level. Sometimes it's just like you only know it if you know it, don't you? So if that's how you've always done it, do people always know that it's a thing that they need to change?
I think if there's anything in your life, anything in your life that you're feeling unhappy about is a sign that there's some change would be a good idea, because it will help you to feel happier. Any sign of discontent or unhappiness is saying, this isn't working as well as it could be working. What is it that we need? Some exploration of what is it that's happening, that's what pattern is being played out here. And actually the rescuing and all people pleasing really, but rescuing comes from, maybe as a child you were taught that love was conditional. So if you weren't really good and kept people happy, then you wouldn't get the love and validation that you crave, that children so crave.
And I think that's so common. Like that comes up in my work all the time. And it's not, people have got maybe have a negative view of what conditional love might be, but actually sometimes it's just about having a parent that's really critical, or a parent that struggled with their own mental health and wasn't always emotional. Like there are so many different ways that shows up.
And maybe a parent prioritized a child wonderfully in some ways, but not in other ways. So it's there for everybody. Has these patterns in their childhood and these experiences in their childhood. Everybody ends up being a people pleaser to a certain degree. And I think it's not just about the conditional love or the unconditional love that a child receives. Sometimes they actually witness that in their parents or their caregivers. They see their caregivers being people pleasing and rescuing, and so they learn, oh, this is how it works, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what will make people love me. I see mummy or daddy or auntie or teacher or whoever it is who's behaving like this all the time, so this is the map blueprint of life that I have to follow. So it's also about the need to be needed. When we rescue, it's so compelling to be needed, because it's that little child within. If somebody says, oh, thank you, you've rescued me, thank you so much for helping me. wow, that's compelling, isn't it? Because the little child within is saying, oh, brilliant, I'm loved, I'm needed, I'm wanted, there's a tick, that a guaranteed tick that I'm not going to be abandoned.
I'm a good person, and
I'm
I'm a
a
good
good
person,
person.
and
Yeah, I'm worthy, I'm good, I'm worthy of being loved. Nobody's going to walk away from me because they need me. And that you don't have those thoughts consciously, but that's the little child in the subconscious.
oh, and that plays out in the relationships as well, doesn't it? In our
Yeah.
adult relationships.
Yeah, so much. So much, yeah. And it's a tangible feeling. I know I felt it in the past. You literally feel that sort of flutter in your body of that's good. You know, that's good. I've needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can we do? What can we do about it? And it's just habit. And as I say, it's about learning that actually in our adult relationships, whether it's with our friends or our spouse, our our partner, our family, at work, business, whatever the relationship is, doesn't help us in the grown-up years, because we end up feeling exhausted. We end up not having enough time. We know we're not being our true self. We're not being our authentic true self, because we're not living life the way we want it to. We're not showing up for ourselves. We're showing up for everybody else. So it's a really good idea, if we're going to get the absolute best out of our life and we're going to have really great grown-up relationships with people, it's a really good idea to break the rescue habit. And there are ways to do that, for sure. The first thing really is to actually get some help. If it's really impacting your relationships, get some help. See a therapist one-to-one. Read self-help books, join online groups, or local groups. There's so many different ways we can do personal development these days, aren't there, Pascale? So, take a course online, watch one of my YouTube videos on my Courage to Be You YouTube channel. I talk a lot about this stuff, and that's free. But work on that, and work on the emotions, work on the guilt that's coming up, because as I say, you will feel something. If you say no to somebody, I can't help you, sorry, you will feel bad, because you're a human being. Of course we have a conscience. There's ways around that. We can say, I can't help you this week, but next Wednesday I'm free, or I can't do it, but Mary down the road is good at that. Or there are ways, communication techniques, and there are ways of setting boundaries, and there are ways of not being completely cold and unkind to somebody. But we do still need to not rescue them. And what we need to do is focus on, do I want to rescue this person, or do I want to support this person? And once we're able to see the difference between rescuing and supporting,
so
break
good.
the habit.
So good. Because actually a lot of the time your one is actually just kind of like colluding with the helplessness of that other person. And that's really difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think, especially if it's somebody that you love, you don't realize it, but you're just enabling that behavior so much. So actually being able to say no is like so important, but also
it's
so
a gift.
hard.
It's a gift. If we can, and this is why I talk a lot about conscious kindness and misguided kindness, because the misguided kindness is that, oh yes, all right, I'll do it for you, I'll rescue you. But it's not kindness, really. It's a misguided sort of kindness. Whereas conscious kindness is when we look at that bigger picture and we say, I know that it makes me feel a bit guilty, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, and you might feel a bit bad if I say no to you. But actually, in the long run, I'm encouraging you to help yourself. And actually, that's my gift to you, because I'm helping you. It comes back to that thing about, as I say, about evolving as a human race. If we can all be a bit more grown up with each other, happily grown up with each other instead of scared children, then, so the very first thing is, am I being consciously kind, or is this a misguided kindness? Am I rescuing this person or supporting this person? And if I was to support them rather than rescuing them, in what ways could I do that? So there are ways we can do that. We can do that by listening to them rather than jumping in and rescuing them, because quite often we know, as the absolute foundation of our work, before we do all the tools and the techniques and get our toolbox out and teach people all this wonderful stuff that we teach them, we know that the foundation or behind all that is to listen to people and let them share their worries, because sometimes that's all they need. They don't need us to go and say, I'll fix it and I'll do it for you, and I'll jump in and I'll keep you as a victim. You stay as a victim and I'll keep you there because I'll do it for you. Well, what they actually need is just to voice what's worrying them and to be heard and to share that, so that they dissolve and dilute some of that anxiety by sharing it. And then they start to think, oh, well, maybe I could do this, or maybe I could do that. And that's the next thing about supporting people, is ask them supportive questions. Rather than saying, I'll do it for you, say, how could you do it? How might you do it? Or do you know anybody who's really good at that, a professional who could help you? Or
and I think that's what we're so good at as therapists and coaches, isn't it? Is like helping people to actually come up with their own solutions, and helping them to think about it kind of like from a more pulled out view, and actually look at it more holistically, and like, how can you fix this yourself? What are you able to do differently? How could you have handled that situation differently? What would you like to do next time? And help them to kind of empowering them, really, rather than enabling, empowering them to kind of come to the solution or the answer, whatever it is, themselves, rather than doing it for them.
Yeah, because in the long run, then they become more confident, and the next time they have some issue or something, they feel more confident to deal with it. So it's, to ask questions. My last book was all about questions. Questions are so powerful, what's that saying? We experience life according to the questions we ask ourselves. It's very important. And
nice.
If we can ask other people empowering questions as well, then that is, again, it's a real gift rather than just rescuing them. And then, of course, the other thing is to validate people. To give people that validation. You're doing well, that's great. I remember last time you had a problem. What did you do? How did you? Oh, yes, I remember that was great when you did that. I've got every faith in your ability to handle this. I'm right there by your side. I'll come to the meeting with you, or whatever it is. I'll go to the bank or whatever the problem is. I'll come with you, but I ain't doing it for you. And when we can put those supporting things into practice, then the desire to rescue tends to diminish, because we see the power of supporting and how much happier that makes us and everybody around us. And we get our time and energy back and our lives back. And maybe sometimes our lives for the first time ever.
Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, wonderful. So I've heard you mention quite a lot about books. We're going to put the link to the quiz in the comments below. Where can people have a look at these books, these incredible books that you've written? Where can they find them, Marléne?
If you go to findcourage.me, it will take you to my website, and you can see my books there, courses, and all the stuff that I love to help people with.
All the incredible stuff. Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that? I mean, I think that was very comprehensive.
In the next videos, as we go along, I will talk about the other types of people pleasing specifically as well. So that will be fun.
Wonderful. Okay. So watch this space.
Watch this space.
Wonderful. And if people want to know more about working with you, do they do that through the Find Courage, your website?
Yeah, findcourage.me. And the quiz, we'll put a link to the quiz in the comments here. Lots of people take that quiz. And after
Brilliant.
the quiz, you get a little action plan, a little worksheet you can fill out that gives you some guidance on the next steps to take.
Excellent. Fabulous, Marléne. Thank you so much. See you soon. Look forward to the next instalment.
See you next time.